Okay, it is 6:03. I'm going to call the meeting to order.
Tucker Whitman.
Here.
Andy Dennison.
Present.
Ben Vitale.
Here.
Chris Petras.
Present.
Paul Pinckney.
Here.
Keith Batman.
Here.
Hans Petcher.
Here.
Strong.
Here.
Heidi Nightingale. Present. Elaine Daly. Here. Tricia Kerr.
Here.
Tim Lattimore.
I'm in chambers, yes.
Michael Didio.
Here.
Ryan Foley.
Present.
Aileen McNabb Coleman.
Present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
I know the republic for which it stands.
under God,
Nation,
indivisible, with justice
and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Tonight on the agenda is a public hearing beginning at 6:05 to adopt local law, amending local laws 2 of 2018, 1 of 2015, 1 of 2012, 1 of 2009, 5 of 2007, and 3 of 1994 to continue the room tax for 3 years. So we're opening that public hearing at this point. Do we want to share the phone number? Do you have?
Yes, the phone number to call in is 315-294-8051.
All the proclamations have already been presented, except for the senior citizen and senior nutrition program. We have National Travel and Tourism Week, May 2nd through May 8th. Emergency Medical Services Week, May 16th through May 22nd. Time Students Own Series, Eagle Scout, June 12th. Master of Mr. Michael A. Miller Day in Cayuga County, June 9th, 2021.
Normally, we would be meeting at the pavilion for our main meeting to honor our senior citizens that have been so helpful to us in the community. I would like to mention the seniors that are that have been awarded as Senior Citizens of the Year 2021. That's Al Evener from District 13, Tim Lattimore's district. Claude Stoker from District 9, Mark Strong's district, excuse me. Edwin Hawkins from District 1, Legislator Whitman's district. Nancy Clavin from District 15, Legislator Foley's district. And John Hutchings from District 9, also Mark Strong's district. And if we could give them a round of applause in case they're tuning in virtually. I thank them for all of their efforts and everything that they do for everyone in this community. So thank you. Okay, we have a couple presentations this evening. First, I would like to call on our County Clerk Sue Dwyer to introduce tonight's presentation.
For those of you who are not familiar with the project we've been working on since early 2020, my team and I named it the DREAMS Project. It stands for Digital Records Electronic Access Management System. It's basically a project to move Cayuga County towards a 21st century records management solution. As county clerk, one of my main duties is to maintain and protect all of county records. I learn a lot by networking with fellow county clerks at conferences. Years ago, Maureen Reynolds gave a presentation about how she transformed their county records by digitizing them. What really caught my attention was that as a result, Tompkins County no longer needed a record center. Our record center costs approximately $22,000 annually to turn on the lights every day. And that doesn't include repairs for heating and plumbing. And in the last couple of months, we've had a problem with both plumbing and heating in that building. If there was a fire in that building, it would result in a catastrophic loss of historical documents. Maureen Reynolds is joining us tonight to explain how digitizing saves money, protects permanent records, and will change the way we do business. Maureen is not only known throughout New York State, she also gives presentations on a national level. And we're very fortunate to have her so close. She's the Tompkins County Clerk, and she's with us tonight.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, thanks for joining us today.
Can I share the screen now?
Maureen, I am sharing the screen here in Chambers. If you just want to say next slide.
Okay, good. Next slide. So first of all, I've worked in the county clerk's office since 1989. When I tell you about this project, I want you to know that it's very doable. I didn't have special training to do this. It was just an idea I had that I ran with, and it really worked well. One of the things that we do is for the public is that, budgets are shrinking and we never get more money. So we're always learning how to do more with less. So next slide. And I have a lot of slides. Next slide. You can go through the next couple ones here. So basically in 1999, we decided to start scanning in the county clerk's office. We started with the stuff day forward. We end up doing all 204 years of our records. So currently, we have no more paper records in our office. So they're getting ready to build us a new office, a new building, and we're going to go with just computers with no records. Go ahead, next slide. So 1999 to the mid 2000s, we were very successful with our office. Had a new county administrator come in 2009, and we had this record center with 9,000 boxes. And he's like, what can you do for this? At the beginning, we thought we would just barcode boxes and, move records around, but we purchased some software. Go ahead, next slide. And we tried it because the software we had was horrible. They gave us no staff and no budget. Gotta love everybody when they do that to you. And so we didn't really have the staff to retrieve files and boxes. So we learned more about the software. Go ahead, next slide. So I didn't realize until I turned 50 that I had become a project manager, but I didn't. It worked really well. So I was at the hub of it. I bought software. It's called Laserfish. There's other software out there. I'm not pushing that. That's what we used. And then I had an imaging vendor set up already from the work we'd done in the clerk's office. So we were used to working with them. And then I had to beef up the county network because I can't just do all this without helping out IT. Next slide. So we use a local Challenge Industries. They're here in Ithaca, Challenge Imaging, and they're ones that helped us. Next slide. So we found that it was a lot more cost effective for us to outsource the scanning on large projects. We go into each project that we look at and kind of look at it and decide, are we going to do it in-house? Because I do have staff that work all day and scan stuff, so we can work jobs in. But if it's very large, we outsource. So Laserfish is Windows-based. It's very comfortable. It allows us to OCR images. It's text searchable. It has modules where it automates the workflow. So where the paper used to move manually, it now moves by the computer. We have auto indexing, we have e-forms, we have web access, and in the background, I can assign retention codes, and there's a Department of Defense certified audit trail. Next slide. So with our current digital record center, it took us 2 years. We took 9,000 boxes, we scanned them, and we eliminated the need for a large building to house a record center. The library that we were in had a leaky roof. The boiler was going, we had floods. It was horrible. It wasn't healthy. And that has since been torn down. Next slide. We actually saved the county $5.5 million by going digital. They didn't have to build another building. They didn't have to have staff and fringes and utilities and security and all that. So by doing that, we saved a lot of money. Next slide. So once I scan the building, I still don't want to be in the business of scanning. So I had to go out and educate departments. So the purchasing department at the county currently, anytime they get a request for storage boxes or filing cabinets, the person has to come to me and justify why they need it because we might have a solution for them. So we want to stop spending the money. I don't want them to keep making paper records where I have to scan it and put it back in. It's done, if it's created on a computer, let's keep it born digital. Next slide. We had a lot of driving forces with us also, like our highway guys. You'd think they wouldn't be keen on this, but now they can take these big, large plans and plots right on their laptop out in the field. They don't have to worry about dragging the paper maps around. Our judges, they can see all the cases wherever they are. Our ADAs work from tablets and no lugging huge files along. And then we had Superstorm Sandy, and we saw what happened in some clerks' offices. It was Cayuga County and another county, I can't remember, but they came back with FEMA bills in the millions of dollars for saving records. If they could even save them. And then we wanted to be transparent. People always say that government's hiding things. We are not. We can't find it. So this is helping us find the records for people. Next slide. So our very first project that we did was a legislature. We went over and took their annual books of proceedings, a couple hundred years of them, scanned them in 2 days and brought them back. And now they're fully text searchable and on the website for people to search, and the staff didn't have to go looking for stuff anymore. Then we worked through all the different county departments because, like I said, we don't want to keep scanning paper. So we went through, I've been in every closet, attic, and basement in the county buildings, and we've cleaned out all their back records. Let's see, finance, we did all the payroll records, which is immense time savings for them. We did all the health department. District attorney was huge. They had 3,000 boxes of case files. They're all scanned and destroyed now. Next slide. In my office, I had the criminal files. We had a couple hundred years of those. Those are all scanned. They're all available on our website. People can look at them for historical reasons or anything else. They're all right there. The sheriff's department was a big user of this too. They had rooms and rooms of records. We scanned up the records and now they have deputies sitting in the rooms. That was nice. Next slide. So you can just see we've worked through all the different departments. The ones we haven't done is our DSS, probation, and a few others that work off New York State systems. Next slide. Now, once I take the paper in the county, I can do this. If I'm going to take your paper, I'm not going to give it back to you because I want the digital record to be the official file. I don't want to scan it, have someone take it back and then add a piece of paper to it, and then we don't know which is actually the actual file. So once I take it in the county, I never bring the paper back. And I just smile big and wheel it out the room, and they're happy when they don't see it. And I've had no complaints, which is amazing in county government. But I have one person on my staff, and she spends a lot of time going into the departments and helping them. And what she does is she mimics the folder structure that they're used to seeing, either in their electronic filing system or pulls out the file cabinet and she looks in the drawer and she can, make them feel comfortable. Our IT department likes it because it's a single software application across departments and it's very integratable with all different systems. So next slide. This is my favorite saying. You can have the best software in the world, but if the end user isn't comfortable with it, they won't use it, which is very true because you got to be there to hold their hands, get them used to it. You can say it's great and great and great, but if you're not there to help them, they're not going to use it. Next slide. Now, I've been at the county for a long time, and over the years, I've seen a lot of knowledge walk out the door as people have retired. And we didn't want that to happen. We wanted to capture it and keep it in the system. At our DA's office at one time, they couldn't change the software and they had to have the old computers from the 80s because they're afraid if they changed it, the program would die. So we wanted to capture all that data, bring it in so they could move on into the 20 seconds, I don't know, to 2021. Also, with the security of records, if someone walks into my records room right now, they could just go in and look. Say I'm at lunch and the door's not locked. They really could go look at it. But with this, we can lock down records so that only people that have rights to see things can see different objects. So in my office, I have personnel files that only I and my deputy would see, and my other staff wouldn't be able to see that. So you just lock it down depending on what people can and cannot do. And in the county, it's just too hard to, we have 770 employees. It's just too hard for me to educate them all on everything, on how long to keep their records. When I first came to the clerk's office, I didn't like how the person had kept the accounting records. So I threw them all out, not knowing I had to keep them for 7 years. So this is going to, in the background, it forces the retention schedule. Next slide. So I have a YouTube video I gave a while ago now. It was about transparent records management. That's up there. Next slide. So what we do with the records management portion here is a certificate of insurance. In the county admin office, the contracts person only used the certificate for 1 year, then she was throwing them out. But we found out that legally we should be maintaining them for 6 years. So what she does when she gets the new certificate, she clicks a button, says to replace the image. Meantime, this goes back into the records management folder for the remaining 6 years. And she doesn't know that, but she doesn't need to know it. She only needs what, she only needs it for a year, but we're still meeting our legal requirements. Next slide. Also, we have entry-level staff come in and scan stuff. They don't know the retention center, or the retention level for things. So what we do is they just go pick a title, and on that title, it'll keep it for that long without them having to decide how long to keep it, because they have not a clue. And look how, with just personnel exam files, how complicated that is. Next slide. We won some awards. Bright Idea Award from Harvard, and Laserfish has given us some awards out in California. Next slide. We won Top Digital County 4 years in a row. Next slide. So to do this project, the county, I initially had some county clerk funds I used to start the project. Then I wrote incremental grants through the New York State Archives, and I kept adding more and adding more and adding more. And each year I'd get a grant and it would pay for it. And it was a great thing. But then the state said shared services is where the money's going to be. And so I liked the money, so that we changed and thought, who could we have for partners? So we went out to the town clerks and talked to them. Next slide. So currently we host Laserfish for every municipality in Tompkins County. So we do the town clerk, we do code enforcement, we do the courts, and they all utilize our version, our Laserfish. We're kind of like the mother holding it all at the county, and then they come in and use it. But with them, the selling thing is I'm not coming in and saying, okay, the town of Caroline, you're going to do the way I do here in the county. They get to make their own, have their own control, and they make their own decisions on their records. We just help them with it. Next slide. So not only do we have all the towns, the villages, the city, we also have Portland County now. So we're hosting for Portland County, and we're hosting for the majority of their municipalities. We keep adding them on as we go. We have established a user group, bylaws, governance structure, policy and procedures. And this entire project was paid for by New York State grant funds. Our user group, we get together, we have a couple hundred people now in our user group, and we've been doing Zoom meetings, but before that we used to get together in person and do training, because to pay a trainer is, so much a day, a couple grand a day. So why just train me and another person in the room? We bring everybody in and train them all for the same price. And then we have a website there. You can go see all our documents are up there. Next slide. Now, this is not something I thought I would be doing. And it's like, why did it work? So we kind of step back and said, why did it work? And I don't come across saying that you have to do it the way I want. You know, we're here to help. You know, we'll do everything we can to help you, you know, just make your life easier. We found out that we're all doing the same thing. And we started with willing partners. So people we knew, we worked with them first, and then we built on that success. By the time we got to the end of the list, people were like, why haven't you been here already? We thought really big, and boy, we never thought we would do what we did, but we started small. And for our meetings, we go to their town halls and stuff when we hold meetings, and because it makes them feel involved. It's not just everyone coming to the county, and we always feed everybody. Everybody's happy. Next slide. So over the years, you can see some of the grants. I don't have some of the newer ones on there, but the newest grant we got for Cortland County was $603,000, and that was not through the New York State Archives like the other ones had been. That was a municipal restructuring fund, and that was just based on cost savings. And Cortland was getting ready; they'd maxed out their records room, so we've helped them scan their records room, and they're using it now in quite a few departments. And quite a few of the municipalities in Portland are now also using Laserfiche. Next slide. So the MRF is what the last grant was. It was the Department of State. I call it the Maureen Reynolds Fund. So I'm going to keep going back there to get more money. It's based on restructuring efforts where local governments assist the implementation of shared services, you know, with other municipalities. And it just was a very easy thing to do. Next slide. So then we wanted to kind of prove we were saving money. So we had Cornell do a cost analysis and take a look. Next slide. So this was done quite a few years ago. And just the first year, the savings to municipalities was huge. They saved time. They saved, they don't have to pay IT. They use our IT. We're paying for the software. They pay for the support of it. It's like $200 a year per license. You know, they've used we do all the contracts because we've already done all the contracts for scanning and all kinds of things like that. So we have it all down pat. We just share what we have. And the first year was just a savings of $328,000 just in municipalities. Every year we grow it, it gets to be more. Next slide. So then they kind of looked at a bigger savings, and you know, savings to the county. You know, at first we had to eat some money because we were putting up money, but then by the time we got to the end, over 7 years, there was a $2.8 million savings to us and our municipalities, just because we were all sharing. Next slide. So when you start, the first thing you do is just start opening the doors, scanning everyone's records, figuring what there is. Then you start organizing the content, and you start automating the process. So where I used to send a physical paper, I now route it electronically. Then we start streamlining. Like, why do we do this? Not because we've always done it. We have to think about it. And then we just transform the process. Next slide. One of the biggest things we did was an automated FOIL process. So everything is automated through Laserfiche. We actually didn't come up with the idea. The city of Ithaca did. They shared their IT knowledge on what they had done with it. We adapted it to the county and utilized it for us. And then any of the municipalities that want it, we just change it over for them. I think they saved, I don't know how many hours, days and hours on the FOIL process. It was amazing. But every time we look at any new process in the county and software, there's software that works for them, but we might integrate it with Laserfiche IT, and we sit down and talk about it and see how it would work best. For our district attorney, we integrated some case management software into Laserfiche, and it works really well with the routing. We currently have a direct fiber connection between us, the city of Ithaca, the town of Ithaca, and Cortland County now. And so with a direct fiber connection, it's all done much quicker. Next slide. So we have tons of electronic forms now for constituents. They can go in and enter the data. We capture it. No one has to put it in again, brings it into the system. We've used it for everything. I mean, our most recent things through the COVID, they just came up with new forms and whatever they needed. It was all done through Laserfiche. Next slide. Let's see. So for our external partners, now mind you, these people have never seen an IT guy. They just have some guy. So when we walk in with IT and, we're helping them buy, their equipment and helping them with advice, and, they get to utilize our IT. They're super happy. And for them, as a county clerk, I never knew a thing about code enforcement and building permits, but now I know everything. So we've built building permit applications, dog licensing, marriage license software. It's all running through Laserfiche. So next slide. So any piece of paper generated needs to be automated. I'm going to remove every print button in the county eventually. That's my goal before I retire. There's going to be no more printing. So we're going to try to automate every process. So say travel expenses. If I get a receipt, I'm going to take a picture of my phone and I'm going to upload it to the accounts payable so they can cut me a check or, put it in my account, and I'll have it in a matter of, hours. We're using it for all these different corporate compliance is a big one. It keeps track of training for employees. And we're capturing data too legally, because for some data, we have to capture it locally to maintain it. And so we work with our cloud systems on capturing it in Laserfiche. Next slide. This is just a little fun. So I don't know if you guys know, but at the Seneca Army Depot, the former Seneca Army Depot, I have leased a bunker. And so at the bunker, I have our permanent archival paper for the county that we must maintain in paper. Even after we scan it, we store it up there. It's temperature and humidity controlled. And we also store microfilm there. Next slide. Here's the former depot. I actually have keys to get in. Next slide. So there's 13 feet of concrete in the floor, 3 on this, I don't know how many, 3 feet of concrete in the ceiling. They can take a missile launch right at the main door. So I think our records are pretty safe there. But it's kind of neat if someone ever wants to go. I once had a bunker party up there showing people, how you could store your records up there. Next slide. So I went through a lot fast because I know I hit 15 minutes. Is there any questions or anything you want me to go over? I just want you to know the biggest thing was this was not what I planned on doing. I work in the county clerk's office. It worked out. The state threw money at me and I spent it. So I spent it good too, I think. And I've saved a ton of money for the county and our municipalities, and it wasn't that hard. So kind of just my story.
Well, thank you. Maureen, do we have questions for Maureen Reynolds here? Or online? Oh, Mr. Latimer?
Yes, great presentation, and looks like a great savings. Now, about 80 employees here at the county got hacked with unemployment, false claims. Now, how secure is the cyber attacks with this information?
I'd have to have my IT director speak on that, but he thinks it's pretty good. Is anything perfect? No. And all of our Laserfiche currently is held locally at the county. We don't store on the cloud. We're looking to the cloud next, just because our storage is getting to be so big. So that was a question IT would have to answer, but I trust them. So
Our IT person, Chair.
I was just going to interject if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, soon I've been doing a lot of research, with the about the prospective solutions that are out there. Laserfiche being one of them. All of these you take a look at have DoD certified levels for security. I forget what the actual coding is for it, but you know, it's Department of Defense level. We are recommending that also, like Maureen's talking about, moving our system, our center, to a cloud-based system, which would leverage that type of security level.
I just don't want to have to pay ransom. I mean, we're saving money, but all of a sudden we're paying $5 million to get our information back.
Right. Any move to that type of system, you have, that is one of the major items that you've got to address. And all the major players out there in the marketplace have themselves in that problem.
Thank you for that answer.
They do have a rating system too for companies that do this. And they rate them on all different things. And one of them is security. So that's one of the things where we've been looking at. We've been working on this for more than a year, but we brought our IT person, Paul Borneman. He's been involved. Don Carr's been involved. Mike McNeil has been leading, and John Bohall from my office and John Wolf from my office. So we've been seeing presentations, and we have been doing work every week on this. So it's a big undertaking, but I think when you think about waiting, you know, pay now or pay later, I think that's part of the thing. And Maureen has inspired us to collaborate, and we did go to the town of Owasco and ask them to come on board with us. If we get our first grant, it would be a shared services grant. We get more money that way. And the town clerk and the town were very eager to look into it with us. So they're just kind of sitting there waiting. They do have a records issue that we could be very helpful with. And it's not too big, and it's near us. And so that would be a good place for us to start with shared services.
Legislator Daley?
I guess, Sue, I was curious, you see the Cayuga County reaching out and partnering with towns or villages. You don't see us going in with another county like Cortland did with Tompkins?
Well, I think Maureen could probably tell you, first you started with the towns and the villages, and then the school and then everything else. Then Cortland said, hey, I'm really interested in that. And the county clerk there got, so I think that, but.
I think what happened is I grew up in Cortland County. My parents lived there in one of the towns, and they wanted me to save them money. So that's why we call it Cortland.
Cortland needs saving.
Any other questions?
Tricia.
Okay, Legislator Kerr?
Hey, Maureen, thank you for the presentation. I think this is really exciting. I have been looking forward to hearing more about this DREAMS project that our county clerk has been working on. And what you presented tonight kind of showcases what it could be, what it could look like for our county and for our towns and our villages. And I really think what you've accomplished is incredible. I want to just ask you, in terms of the buy-in from the county staff, it sounded like everybody kind of embraced this project pretty quickly. How much training or how much on the ground work has to happen at that department level to get staff to transition over to this type of a system? And I guess my second question is related to the storage of the documents. Are any of these documents currently accessible to the public online through Laserfiche, or is it all an internal system right now?
Both. So it's available both. So a lot of the historic stuff is public. Anything that's really public, we've put on our public website. If it is, by department, what we do is we allow the departments to review the documents, and then they can email them to the constituent rather than just putting everybody's information up there. So department by department, we work on it. My deputy, she works probably half-time with the Laserfiche. She's the one who goes out and helps departments. But like I said, it's Windows-based. It's very comfortable. You show them a few times, they get it. You give them, her phone number to call. She runs over and helps them, holds their hands. It's not that time consuming. And we found that by getting one champion in each department, they kind of, we get the one champion and they can help the other people in the department. So it's not so much time for my staff, but we're always there. We always go. The buy-in from some people was not as easy at first, but once they saw how the other departments were saving time, people get talking. And then once we got there, for some of the more, the stubborn ones, then they would let us do it. They were ready for us then. So, and definitely, we did some department ones, then we went by, we did half the towns one year, then we did more towns, and just building it. It was really a good project. And the town clerks and I are like best friends now. So it's great.
And the town clerks here have been bugging me like hell because they've been saying, when are you gonna do this for us? They've been doing this. So I'm anxious to help everybody. One thing I want to say about Cayuga County, so we're renovating the mailroom to be half a passport room and half a mailroom. And I have these great big filing cabinets. And a couple years ago, if I put those pictures and sent them out to everyone, they'd be grabbed up in 2 seconds. Do you know that nobody needed these filing cabinets? I was so happy. I was like, yay, that was, it was. More people are scanning their records already. And the first department we'll start with, if we get this project and we get a grant and things like that, and it moves forward, we're gonna swallow our own medicine here and start with county clerks. And believe me, the court papers alone, what is it? A third of the record center is county clerks because of courts.
And we're always just, a neighbor away. So if you have problems, then you can give us a call. We'll tell you mistakes we made. And, we don't mind sharing into the intelligent part of it with the IT. Anything we've built, we'll share it with you. The Laserfish community is very good. They do a lot of sharing. So the city of Rochester took what the city of Ithaca did and theirs. We shadowed what Oneida County did with their DA records. So there's a lot of sharing statewide with Laserfish. So it's good. Just trying to save money everywhere.
Well, thank you very much, Maureen, for your presentation tonight. And thank you for Clerk Sue Dwyer for bringing it to our attention and having you on with us this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Also.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another presentation. I'm actually going to call on our Deputy Treasurer, Mary Beth Leeson, to introduce our audit presentation this evening.
Thank you. We have Luke Malecki and Erica Hanley from Drescher and Malecki tonight, who will share the findings from the financial statement audit tonight.
Thanks,
and
Mary
I'll
Beth.
turn it over to them. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, everyone. As Mary Beth said, I am Luke Malecki. I was engagement partner on the county's financial statement audit for December 31st, 2020. With me presenting is Erica Hanley. She was the senior manager that oversaw a lot of the day-to-days audit progress. We are kind of in a holding pattern right now. We finished our field work. We started it with Mary Beth back in March, pretty much a largely remote audit as the New York new normal was coming back into swing. But we did come on site for a little bit of our single audit. Just wanted to compliment the readiness and the preparedness of the treasurer's office, as well as all the departments that we went through. We certainly got everything we needed in a very timely manner, and we're in a position to present in a pretty early part of the year before you start even thinking about the budget process. All the numbers presented today will be draft. We're still waiting on 2 of the component units of the county to release their financial statements. Those would be the Soil and Water Conservation District, as well as the Health Insurance Consortium. The purpose of this presentation is really just to give you a brief overview of the results of the audit. Erica will run through the products that we will release once those component units are filed. And then I'll go over a really quick bird's eye view of the county finances for the year ended December 31st, 2020, which certainly was a unique year for all of us. Foremost, I think it's important to note that we anticipate issuing an unmodified opinion. That's a clean opinion. In other words, we feel that the financial statements fairly represent the county's financial position as of December 31st, 2020, and for the year that ended. Also, within our audit, we are exposed to certain internal controls. And from time to time, we would potentially notice an item that should be reported to the county legislator as a significant deficiency or material weakness. We had none of those such findings. So a very clean audit, a nice bill of health as far as the books and records go. And we'll get a little bit into the finances as well later on. So if you go to the next slide, and Erica, jump up.
Sure. So I'm just going to take you through some of the products of our audit. First and foremost, we are hired by the county to provide an opinion on the county's basic financial statements. Another piece of the audit that we perform is a federal single audit where we perform a series of tests over federal awards that the county has received. This year, we tested 3 federal programs: the Temporary Assistance to Needy Families Program, the Comprehensive Community Mental Health Services Program, and the Medical Assistance Program. And that's a pretty rigorous test for each of those. We're testing 25 cases or 25 samples from each of those programs and putting them through a list of attributes that we're testing for to ensure that any eligibility requirements are being followed, that the costs are allowable, that the activities are allowed. So it is a pretty rigorous test. We had no findings in relation to federal awards this year either. So we do issue that opinion along with the basic financial statements. We also issue a management letter, which is just an opportunity for us to kind of provide best practices, some observations that we've had on the county during our audit procedures. We've met with management and discussed some of these preliminary observations and best practices, and we're in the process of formalizing and concluding on that at this point. The auditor communications, I'll talk about a little bit more on the following slide. And then lastly, we also perform and provide an opinion on the county's New York State Department of Transportation. So we take a look at expenditures related to DOT and the claims for reimbursement and issue an opinion on that as well.
And actually, before you go to the next slide, that you're going to talk about that now because that slide doesn't exist. Sorry.
Oh, no. Okay.
You didn't get the final deck, I think.
Got it. Sorry about that. Okay, so the auditor communications, this is a required communication letter that we provide at the end of each of our audits. And there's a series of just required items that we talk about. The first to bring to the attention of this group is what our responsibility is as the county's auditors under generally accepted accounting standards. So our responsibility when we come in and start working on the county's audit is to plan an audit and perform that audit so that we are able to ensure that the county's financial statements are free of material misstatement. We are also required to communicate to you any significant accounting policies. Those are in, when you do get the final financial statements, those are included in note 1 to the financial statements. Those have not changed from the prior year except for the adoption of a new governmental accounting standards board standard that the county was required to adopt this year. So that standard is number 84. And basically we took a look with the county at items that were previously in the agency fund. And the requirement is to evaluate those for what the county's involvement is like on an administrative or custodial level. And some of those get reclassified as governmental funds. And as a result of implementing that GASB, that new principle, there was a restatement to the county's financial statements just to bring over some of those previously classified accounts into the governmental funds.
Okay, so if we could just shift to the next slide, actually you could probably jump through.
Oh, sorry, Luke, I just have a couple more to go through.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Just also to quickly go through significant accounting estimates. There are a series of accounting estimates in the county's financial statements. We perform just an evaluation of those estimates to make sure that the inputs are reasonable and that those estimates can be relied on. We determine that all of the estimates in the financial statements are reasonable. And then also we communicate our independence from the county, which is probably one of the most important things to you. Everyone that works on the county's audit from our firm is independent of the county. And then lastly, just there were no other matters that were required to be discussed, no uncorrected errors, no disagreements with management. And as Luke mentioned, we had the full open access to all departments that we worked with. Okay, moving on to the financial statement details.
And each of those items that Erica listed for the products, we'll be sending those electronically, and we'll have paper copies available through the treasurer's office. Just request that. So shifting quickly to the financial statement update to see what the impacts of the COVID year were. If you could go to the next slide here, what we're looking at, we like to look at the general fund. That is usually the kind of the litmus test of the health and success of the county over the last few years. And you can see the past few years, there's been several years of increase. And then this year, kind of the COVID pandemic challenged the county on the revenue side of things a little bit. And there was a large settlement that was paid out of the general fund that caused for a slight decrease. So a one-time cost in the general fund of about $1.4 million. Had that not occurred and that settlement not happened, you'd actually be looking at a slight increase during the pandemic year. But looking at the budget last year, that was passed in 2019 for 2020, the plan was to use about $1 million of fund balance, and actually you only used about $288,000. So despite the pandemic and despite that one-time large one-sum payment, you actually did outperform the budget. So revenues actually came in a little bit less than the original budget. And originally during the pandemic phase of COVID, a lot of counties were getting fearful of where their sales tax were coming in. And actually early on in the 2020 year, sales tax did trend a little bit downwards, actually dramatically downwards. And it wasn't until the state did a reallocation and the more finite distribution of sales tax that a lot of the upstate counties started to see a rebound. And that's what happened with your county. And sales tax actually ended up in a favorable balance of about $1 million, and even increased from the prior year, 2019, by about 400,000, which was helpful because it did offset some impacts that were, some revenues that were negatively impacted from the pandemic. That being some intergovernmental charges and departmental revenue that underperformed the budget slightly, as well as state aid coming a little bit under budget. It's hard to tell if that's just timing of the state aid or if it was a result of the withholding, just because the state aid timing fluctuates from year to year, but it did go down about $1 million this past year, as well as the federal aid went down about 200,000. On the expenditure side of things, even with the that one extra lump sum payment, the expenditure still outperformed their the budget by $2.7 million, which was really just a reduced program utilization combined with some cost saving mechanisms throughout the county to battle the negative economic effects of the pandemic. So the next slide looks at a little bit at the revenue side of things. What this does is it gives a nice little trend data of how the revenues have been performing over the past few years. This year, revenues stayed somewhat stable, actually decreased by close to 1%. And the main reason for that is related to interest earnings. So although interest earnings came pretty close to the budget, they significantly underperformed last year's interest earnings by about $700,000. And then that combined with about $500,000 of less revenues related to departmental and intergovernmental income. Departmental income lost about $150,000 from less activity just during the stay-at-home order. And then the intergovernmental income went down because there was no federal inmates being housed at the jail. So there's about $400,000 that didn't get experienced in 2020. The rest of as you can see, the rest of the revenue stayed somewhat stable. I did say that the real sales tax did only increase 400,000. That compares to about 1.5 million from 2018 to 2019. And I think that's important because 2019 is going to be your base year when you're looking at your American Rescue Act. So when they're looking at the American Rescue Plan, when you're looking at your potential uses, and this is something that we'll work really closely with the treasurer on and giving them some best practices to ensure that those funds are used appropriately within the compliance of the government. But one of the ways to use that is to supplant your revenue reduction. And what they're going to do, what they're offering within the interim finance rule is saying, looking at your aggregate revenues from 2019 and seeing how those would compare if you use a 4.1 growth factor to create a counterfactual revenue. That's the term that they use. So basically, you'd look at your 2019 revenues and increase it by 4.1%. And the difference between that 2020 and that 2019 year is what you could classify as revenue reduction, and then use it in that form within the program. So again, a lot of extra information, just kind of one of those things that we're looking at. So although you didn't experience that great growth that you saw in 16 to 17 on your sales tax, and then 18 to 19 as well, you didn't get that in 19 to 20. I think that you will get some, be able to use some of the federal awards within the compliance supplement that relates to the American Rescue Plan. Real property taxes, those stayed pretty stable, close to budget. The interest and penalties actually did drop a little bit just for some economic relief to the taxpayers. And the next slide, we look at the expenditures and transfers out. So the other side of the coin on the trend. A couple of reclassifications I just like to point out right away is in 2016, employee benefits were not allocated to the different departments. And then in 2020, you can see there was a little bit of a shift from health to other expenses. And that's just related to a reclassification of a department within education. But when we look at the end of at this year, we saw expenditures in Cayuga County increase only about 1%. And again, that boils down to pretty close to $1.3 million. So had that $1.4 million one-time payment not occurred, expenditures actually would have decreased a little bit. And I think that paints the picture of what the effects of the pandemic did to the services that were requested of the county, as well as some cost-saving mechanisms that were implemented to reduce salaries or limit overtime and those kind of things throughout the year. The last slide I have as far as the general fund goes is the fund balance trend. And this is just kind of a real quick litmus test on where the health of the county is. There's a lot of varying interpretation on where your fund balance, quote unquote, should be. Most recent guidance of any sort of leading agency would tell us is the Government Finance Officers Association recommends having about 2 months or so, 1.5 to 2 months or so of revenue or of fund balance on hand, really just to help float until those taxes dollars start to come in. So that number would be about 15 to 16%. And you're right within that range with your 18.3 million. It's about 14% of your annual expenditures in your savings account. That would be that blue portion. The remaining part of the fund balance, 14.4, 2 million of it's tied up with a prepaid asset, so you can't really use that. You got about 10.3 million in restrictions. The bulk of that is 8.6 within your capital projects, as well as some insurance reserves, about $1.6 million. So those are helpful to help smooth the cost of unemployment services and some casualty and loss. The real reduction in fund balance from one year to the next was within that red portion, so the restricted portion. So your unassigned fund balance actually grew slightly, whereas your restricted use a little bit of the fund balance for capital projects. So when you look at the year in review, certainly the beginning of the year was a little bit more fearful as far as what are we going to expect, but it ended up being kind of a pretty stable year economically within the general fund's fund balance. And now you're on the horizon of receiving about 14.8 million. You should be receiving your 7.4 million of your first tranche of the ARP money, and start applying that to some improvements that are outlined within the 156-page interim finance rule. That is a thrill to read. So that's really our formal presentation. On the last slide is my information as well as Erica's information. We do work for the county. We're here year round. Our specialty is government, so there's never any question that we don't like to research if we don't have the answer right away. Mary Beth knows, and as well as Mr. Orman knows, that we're available year round for your help. And I'm expecting to have a few pretty lengthy conversations on the impacts of the ARP on the county. So if there's any questions right now, I'd be happy to field those. Or as I said, if you'd feel more comfortable reaching out individually to Erica and I, please don't hesitate to do that. We enjoy working with the county and find a great pleasure in being able to help you guys spend your money the best way possible for the taxpayers.
Thank you so much for this presentation. And I know our treasurer, Jim Mormon, has spoken very highly of you and is happy that you were able to report so early in the year. I am going to ask the legislature if you have any questions. We have Legislator Lattimore with a question.
Luke, Erica, after your review, do you think that we might be able to buy a few firecrackers for the 4th of July celebration, or you have enough there?
Well, it depends on how long do you want the show to be?
Thank you. The one question I did have, Soil and Water hasn't reported yet. We do have a microgrid. Have you had other counties that have microgrids, and have you studied them for their electrical use?
Not as it relates to the financial statement audit. I wouldn't be able to speak too deeply into that one.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, either here or virtually, for legislators who are attending? Seeing none, thank you so much, Luke and Erica, for your presentation. We really appreciate it, and thank you, Mary Beth, for your introduction tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
At this point, I'll check in with the public hearing happening about the room tax. Is anyone here to speak to the public hearing, or anyone online? Amanda, you can offer the number again. I didn't.
The phone number is 315-294-8051.
We'll continue that for just a little bit longer.
Madam Chairman, just one thing on the tax. When we implemented it, it was to produce more tourism, more sales tax. Do we know how much ed tax we've brought in over the life of this contract? This is the only tax I really like, because other people pay it. Our taxpayers don't pay this tax. And it's nice to fund our tourism program. Do we know
I do not
how
have that
much money
information.
goes towards our
Nope, I
over
don't
the
have that tonight.
period of contract? Thank you.
Any other questions on that?
Hi, if I may, this is Karen Cole, the Director of Tourism for Cayuga County. I don't have a direct answer to that question at the moment, but if you'd like me, I can dig up those numbers and have them sent over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, minutes to approve from April 27th.
Second.
Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes and reappointments.
Move the appointment, Madam Chair. Second.
Okay, we have, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are carried. Next up, we have the CCC report with Dr. Duran. I don't know if you sent any.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
I'm glad to hear your voice. There you are.
I'm here. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I apologize about last month. I was doing an accreditation visit for a college out of state. This is the month of May, the month of, in a normal, typical time, we would be, celebrating, our employees, our faculty and staff, our students in various capacities. This past Sunday, we were able to celebrate a virtual commencement ceremony for our graduates of 2021. We also included 2020. We did do a virtual ceremony last summer, but the product in our work that we did this year was a little bit more enhanced. So we wanted to be able to provide students even more opportunity. Certainly, as we look ahead, we're hopeful that next May, we'll be able to return back to an in-person ceremony. I'm aware that other colleges are having some in-person. Candidly, we made the decision back a couple of months ago based on planning and where the world and the region was at, based on our facilities, both indoor and outdoor, and what the limitations were at the state, and just felt it was most prudent for us to make a decision to do the best planning that we could. And although, we certainly wished our students would be able to celebrate their wonderful achievements in person, we just believed it was the best decision at that moment for us. And, we'll continue to look ahead. This past May, early May, our board meeting, our trustees approved a tuition and fee schedule, which is the next step in our budget development that we'll be looking to bring to the county for review and hopeful approval as early as July. And, this year we really thought it was important to be mindful of, the cost for students and so forth. And so we recommended to our trustees, and they approved a tuition and fee schedule that includes no increase in tuition for the 21-22 academic year and no introduction of new fees. And, we're building our budget on a projected, loss of enrollment. Again, certainly COVID has impacted our enrollment this year, and our overall budget will continue to go down and be reduced. But, we're living within our means, and we're doing the best that we can. But ultimately, we need to be mindful of our students. And, we believe it was the next step in building a responsible budget this year. So I look forward to bringing that to our trustees in June, and then bring it forward to the county later on this summer. As for this year, we certainly, we are on pace to, have a balanced budget at year end, much like other years. Even though this year we did not hit our enrollment projection, we adjusted it mid-planning last year, trying to gauge what impact COVID-19 may have on enrollment and other factors. And in the end, we knew back in October that we weren't quite on pace, so we made the adjustments in expenditures, and we are on pace to have a balanced budget for the end of this year. Our culinary project continues to be about essentially done. We're going to be looking to have an opening that's safe and appropriate here in the coming months, and we'll look forward to having you all participate. The facility looks wonderful. Our partners have been great. And we have a number of applicants for the fall that are looking to enroll. So we're continuing to support and nurture those prospective students as the program gets off the ground. The other major things, certainly for the college, is we are in our fall planning. When it comes to courses that'll be offered in person and what the college campuses in Fulton and Auburn will look like in the fall, we certainly are looking to expand what we're offering in person and looking to, match what students are looking for in a health and appropriately safe way. And, right now, one of the biggest things, and I'm sure other public service entities are looking for this, we're aware of the updated, hope and guidance of masks and social distancing and things like that, that are looking ahead. And, once we get updated guidance from the health department and how it impacts public colleges and SUNY in particular, then we'll be able to flesh out even more details of what our fall will look like. For those that are unaware, our summer is historically and primarily online. Anyway, that's where we have found most of our students want to enroll as they take and often work and take some courses to move forward. So. That's where we are at this point. Obviously we could not have gotten through this past year plus without the leadership and support of the county and the health department and health officials. It certainly has been it's been an interesting year to be an educator, and certainly one who, we want to be able to look ahead. At the same time, a little shorter vision was the best interest for everybody this year. So as we work through the summer and sort of rest a little bit from this busy year as we end, we're going to start looking ahead and focusing on the creation of our next strategic plan, updating our facility master plans, our critical maintenance plans, and really starting to think about, the next 3 to 5 years for Cayuga's future. So I appreciate all your patience and support, and would be happy to answer any questions.
Hey, questions for Dr. Durant? I have legislator Lattimore.
Doctor, my usual question, I know that you know, culinary is important, but technology seems to be driving the economies. I know that we, you know, had a mission on Mars, and we had drones flying around Mars, and I know we had a platform at the college at one time. I know it's not part of the college, but I'd like to see where that stands before I leave this board.
Yeah, you know, our college's GIS program and our other technology programs are going to be part of what we're going to be needing to, you know, review in the coming years. Is, as you probably know, that, you know, your high cost programs are generally your career and technical programs, and we need to look at them not just from a cost but viability and how they position themselves in the marketplace. Our faculty do a great job of trying to modernize their curriculum and you know, looking at the resources that are there. So, you know, I know and we know that you know, modern GIS and looking at the drone technologies and how it interacts with some of our other tech initiatives is something that, you know, we will be looking at and what our next priorities can be on a program design side. And at this point, you know, our next two initiatives that we really need to settle on that help give us a platform, if you will, for workforce development is really about, you know, solidifying the Advanced Manufacturing Institute program on our Fulton campus, that capital project, as well as, you know, being creative in securing the remaining funding that's needed to build the Workforce Development Center in Auburn, you know, because that facility is one for us that's really going to be able to, I think, set a stage to connect multiple agencies and multiple initiatives, probably position us very well for shared service grants and other things that can be able to take risk in certain program or take risk in training. And I think that would be a great step forward for us to do. So in the coming weeks and months, I'm sure you'll be hearing about some ideas that I have to be able to get there, and then what possible new programs can come of that as we look ahead. So I know it's a passion. I know it's an important one, Legislator Lattimore, and we certainly at the college will continue to do our due diligence as we can start to look ahead again.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Legislator Nightingale.
Hi, Dr. Duran. Thank you. This is Heidi Nightingale. I was curious to know a couple of things. How many students did you graduate in the last 2 years in this combined graduation? Which programs are you finding the most enrollment, retention, and graduation rates in?
Oh, wow. Great question. So the highest enrollment that we have at the college and has been historically is in our liberal arts programs, liberal arts, humanities, social science, math and science. They have significant enrollment. And you know, those programs, although for some who may not be familiar, sound like open-ended gen ed, but they are also the basis for many, many transfer and articulation process, whether you want to go into psychology or sociology or history or chemistry or biology or math. Those particular associate's degrees are the ones that are best designed to actually provide the roadmap for transfer and many, many degree paths. And we have several articulation agreements and agreements with all the SUNY system for how those can translate. So those are very of significant enrollment. The other programs that we have that have really significant enrollment too is in our health services area, which is a generalized program that was originally designed to provide transferability to upstate and a background or pathway for multiple career-oriented programs. But it also is one that some can, you know, perhaps enroll here and then maybe go on to another 4-year school and something in health services or something different. Maybe it's going to prep them down the road for exploration and something else in the medical field at the graduate level. And, you know, that particular program has been significantly subscribed. Our business programs are strong. Criminal justice is strong. Those all have some of the healthiest enrollments. Now, our college obviously has a history of telecom and so forth. When we look at our graduation rates and we look at our persistence rates by program, that's actually part of the work that we need to and that we'll continue to do and focus on even further as we go forward, because enrollment is twofold, right? There's the interest in the institution to begin with and choosing to enroll in what program of study you may have. And then the more individuals that you can retain at a higher level, that certainly helps your overall enrollment. And so for the college, our success rates as we define them, we have, we certainly have high level success rates for those students who transfer to other schools. We certainly have, retention rates that are in the state and sort of national averages. But ultimately, that next level study of analysis of by program and so on is the type of work we're going to be focused on as we move ahead, and particularly what might best predict the attrition of a student, and what services and interventions can we put in place to help support to reverse that potential prediction.
Thank you.
I have a question now from Legislator Foley.
Yeah.
Grant, as you know, I've always been kind of an advocate for students and not raising tuition or creating new fees on a yearly basis. To be facetious, it only took a global pandemic to get us to, I think that's progress. At least I'm glad to hear that there are tuition increases in this budget. With that said, you mentioned that you had make mid-year adjustments in order to get your budget balanced. I'm wondering if you can report on what items and what steps the college took in order to get that budget balanced. Was it attrition? Was it layoffs? Or was there items that you used?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So there were approximately a dozen part-time positions last summer, probably around this time, that we had eliminated based on, financial concerns related to the early parts of COVID and related to our planning for the following year. Outside of that, we'd certainly have held a number of vacancies that have existed, but those were not really our major efforts this year. This year, many of our efforts, certainly by not having our buildings open and as running as full and as they are, we saved some money in utilities this year, which for our physical plant can be relatively significant. The other major effort that we did, and this is part of a typical responsibility of a college, is that when your enrollment is down or down more than you project, ensuring that you're managing your academic course offerings to reduce them to better match the need of students is an important way to cut some of your overhead. So, for example, in the fall, we really set a target working with our academic leaders. We knew that we needed to reduce our offerings by 10%, let's just say as an example. And so they all came together and we developed a plan and then executed that plan to achieve that target. Similarly, we did it in the spring as well. So that saves significant dollars when it comes to human resource needs for the extra sections. And then we curbed some of our spending this year just to be unsure. But similar perhaps to you, I'm not as an expert as you are. We also very early on, if you recall, I think I talked about this, we were part of the state withholding of 20% of our state aid. And then, that resulted in us right away to having to look at a number of ways to address that. The other major initiative that we took as a college is we negotiated with many of our collective bargaining units to modify retiree medical for the Advantage program. And that participation increase was a savings not only to membership, but to the institution. We were able to reduce our healthcare costs in our budget approximately 21 or 22% from that particular too. So we were actually able to cut our budget by, we have a $28.5 million budget. We were able to, find the cuts through those types of mechanisms. We were able to cut about $1.5 million and puts us on pace to have a balanced budget at year end.
Any other questions for Dr. Durant this evening?
If I may, I missed one of the parts of Legislator Nightingale's question about how many graduates. So I believe this year we had approximately 400 graduates in 2021 total. That's representing those from December May, and those likely to complete in August. And so we had about 400, and I think last year we had a few more than that. So, you know, that's kind of in the vicinity that we are annually with our number of graduates.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Durant, for your report this evening.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Yeah, next on the agenda, actually, before we move on to the agenda, the public hearing has been open now for about an hour and 15 minutes. So without any notice or anyone else wishing to speak, we're going to close the public hearing now at 7:20. Okay, up next on the agenda, committee reports and individual legislator reports. Does anyone have anything to report on this evening? Legislator Lattimore?
Madam Chair, just one comment. I mean, several years ago, we had the championship state team from Moravia, and we honored them. And I know that our football team went undefeated. Is there any kind of proclamation or anything that we can do? I mean, is this meeting? I mean, we always had it at the lake when we had a full team. Can we honor perfection in a season? I mean, I think it would be a nice thing to do.
You just have.
I know we've done it in the past for Moravia. I mean, Auburn, I know it's not everything. But anyways, I'd like to see us at least make a proclamation about it.
For, I believe, Moravia Sports.
No,
or
I think
Auburn
it's
Sports.
Auburn. Yeah.
So that's just contacting our clerk, if you would like to enter that into the record and present it. Okay.
Yeah, recognition would be nice. Thank you.
Sure.
I know I don't get too much respect.
Welcome to the club. Okay, legislator Foley. Yeah, tough crowd.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to give a few updates for those that weren't at government operations. You did provide a rather detailed report on our chief information officer process thus far. I want to thank you for that. For those that weren't in attendance, you can go watch the YouTube video or ask for the document that Aileen reviewed. And it pretty much laid out where we are at, where we've been, and where we are going. We are working on that, is moving forward. We've started interviews. If anyone has any questions, please get a hold of me. Secondarily, we have started working on hiring a new veterans office director. We did kind of go over that in committee as well. We are putting together a hiring committee and will advertise for that position and kind of go from there. If anyone on the legislature wants to serve on that, please let me know. We are trying to keep it rather slim just because it is kind of a smaller office. It only has 2 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff. You know, but I'll see who we get interested for that and kind of move from there. I know that Charlie, for instance, was in the military. You might be interested in that. I'll be definitely hitting him up for his knowledge. So, yeah, I just wanted to give the legislature those updates, and please get a hold of me if you have any questions.
So Legislator Foley, would you like any legislator who would like to be part of that interview committee too?
Yeah, that's fine. Just don't all come at once, you know. It's,
Okay, great. Please contact Ryan Foley if you're interested in being part of that process. I am excited today. We did start our interview process for CIO. That's exciting.
Yeah. I have to correct myself. I said Charlie, I meant Mark Strong.
I wasn't sure where you were going. Wasn't sure. I thought you were going to call Charlie. That was nice.
I get no respect. Join the crowd.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have anything to report this evening?
Madam Chair, this is Vitale. Can you hear me?
Can you hear us?
Yes. So I just wanted to give a quick update on the map plan for the regional water project. The engineers are working, finalizing the map plan. We reviewed a number of things last week at the board meeting. Some of it is regarding to the phasing. Some of it is the governance of the map of the regional project when it's created, and who would be making the decisions as to what portions go forward at what time. So those things are moving forward. I was really hoping that we could bring something to the ledge this month, but you know, we have to try to do the best we can and prepare the best plan that we can bring forward. So we're doing that. The other thing that the Water and Sewer Authority approved this last week was to do the seeker for the the regional water project. So we're moving forward with the seeker. That money is being spent from the Water and Sewer Authority's funds. Came with a little bit of pushing from Mr. Vitale, but they agreed to do it with their own funds. And so I think things are moving forward, and I look forward to bringing more information in the future. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Vitale? Mr. Latimer?
Mr. Vitale, I know there's 24 billion in the American Rescue Plan. Can we expand that plan, and are we starting too soon in order to tap into some of this rescue money that's coming?
Excellent question, Mr. Lattimore. We are trying to get this done as quickly as we can. The quicker that we can have a plan that's approved, the quicker that we can start looking for funding. And the real goal here is to try to bring a second source of water to our county, and have it not cost our constituents very much money. If, you know, originally there was people talking about $100 per EDU, and I think that's out of the question. Even though water is easily worth $100 more a year, it's still out of the question. People have to be able to afford it. And so that's really what we're working at, is to try to get it done as quickly as we can so that we can start looking for funds, because as you just said, I think there's going to be a lot of funds available. Our chairwoman and folks have been communicating with all of our people in Washington and Albany. So we are definitely on their radar, and we are trying to find every dollar that we can. Thank you.
Any other questions? Legislator Daley?
And I was just most curious. It seems to me the role of the county is to establish the water district at some point in time. Is this work that you're doing now, is that all part of getting ready to do something like that so that it could go for public vote?
Yeah, once the map plan is done, and then we have to give people some time to, you know, be educated and things, then there'll be a vote. It definitely probably will not be in, I don't know, I'm not good at that, but it might be a special election. But in the meantime, once we get the map plan complete, we can start looking for dollars, because a lot of the decision on whether the public votes yay or nay on this plan is how much it's going to cost.
Any other questions? Thank you, Legislator Vitale, for keeping us updated on this very important topic.
Thank you.
Any other legislative reports or committee reports this evening?
Madam Chair, this is Tucker. I would just like to add a bit of an update on the governor's broadband initiative in Cayuga County. We're a couple years after the point in which it was to be completed, and surprise, surprise, it's still not completed. We do not have high-speed internet. Wanted to give that to you while I'm listening to the choppy audio feed of this meeting. We're still waiting. Anybody you could reach out to in the governor's office about it and maybe get an update on their end and what they know. Maybe they think the project is completed and have built it out. I'm really not sure what's going on, but I just keep getting told that, yeah, it's almost done, it's almost done, it's almost done, and it's not done. So that's my update on that.
Tucker, if I could, there is an important survey going around. I don't have the copy of the survey in front of me, and I don't remember the timing. I think it's the end of July is when the survey is up, but it's basically a survey that we've joined other counties in central New York to find out where we have needs for broadband intervention here. So I can send you that link so you're aware. I certainly appreciate this update, and I can also do my part in alerting folks in Albany who may also think that it's done and that, we're sort of all sewn up here in the county. But Legislator Batman would like to.
No, I was just
offer
going to
something.
mention the survey.
Okay.
And the purpose of that survey is, as you mentioned, Madam Chair, is to identify the places that are underserved and unserved, and then to take the initiative, along with the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board, in terms of filling those holes. And if that involves pushing then parts of build out that's been promised from the other grants, we'll do so. If that involves saying, okay, we have these holes, and there will be holes, then we'll seek a way, we as in the collective Cayuga County and Regional Planning Board will seek a way to fill those holes. But yeah, so I think it's great that Tucker brought it up because it's a critical problem. And I point out it's not up north. We have the same, we have holes in the south as well. And so it's a county-wide problem. And the thing that we all can do at this point is complete that survey.
You got it.
I get what Keith is saying, and I would just like to add that while there are holes in the whole broadband initiative that the state put out was designed with holes in it, I understand that. What I'm speaking to is not places where there were holes left by the project. I'm speaking to parts that were supposed to be completed and done and serviced by the project, and that has not been done. They started it. I can show you spots where they put in conduit. It's still sticking out of the ground, and it was just never completed. So my concern is, did somebody get paid for something that they didn't do and have no intentions of doing with tax dollars? I think that's where I would like to see a follow-up. But I do know what you're speaking of, Keith, and I think that's a separate issue, and we definitely need to follow up on that too.
Tucker, if you don't mind, I'll reach out to you tomorrow or whenever you're available, and so we can.
Yeah, it works for me. Thank you.
Okay, chair report. I have a few things to update this board on, as well as anyone listening this evening. On May 3rd, I had the honor to participate in a tourism ambassador ceremony, honoring 13 tourism ambassadors from real estate to healthcare businesses, art, retail, and others, to thank them for the tourism industry for their passion and investment in our county. Each recipient received Cayuga County Tourism Ambassador Pin, and I presented the proclamation for National Tourism and Travel Week, which was May 2nd and May And I presented that to our director, Karen Cool, and I want to thank her again for inviting me to the ceremony. I also was honored to receive my own Cayuga Tourism Ambassador pin, which I proudly wear, so I want to thank her again for that. I want to also thank the legislature and the public who came out or tuned in to the special legislator meeting at Emerson Park on Wednesday, May 19th. Prior to the start of that meeting, many of you were on hand for a brief tour of Deauville Island given by Doug Delastrito from Parks and Trails Department. Our planning department, Parks and Trails Department, and landscape architects Trowbridge Wolf Michaels provided a great presentation on the proposed upgrades to Deauville Island, including the destination playground, updated ticket booth and bathhouse, expanded beach, more boat docking options, and an amphitheater. I will be providing the legislature with a proposal for our investment in Deauville Island in the coming weeks. This was brought up by Luke Malecki. So I dove into the specific guidance for the American Rescue Plan. As you can see, this was 156 pages or whatever of lots of detail. The committee meeting on the American Rescue Plan funding will be convening on June 7th. Those members include Dave Botar from Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board, Tracy Verrier from CEDA, Ben Vitale will be representing Water and Sewer, Lynn Marinelli, Steve Lynch, and myself. As specific recommendations arise for priority areas assigned from the guidelines, there will be more targeted members and legislators asked to participate in specific planning committees. So just so you're aware of that, I mean, we're just getting together to a brainstorming session. I know Dave Botar, Tracy Verrier have worked with other municipalities, so we will be kind of partnering and opening discussions on this very important guidance that we have now. Luke Malecki brought up a great point about revenue reductions. One of the things that we have to come up with is our revenue loss. Lynn Marinelli's been working very hard to come up with an amount. It's great to be able to show the amount of revenue loss in order to recoup that money from this American Rescue Plan funding. So that will be a great portion of funds that we're able to use for some other priority projects that may not work within the confines of the regulations of the American Rescue Plan. So we may have some things that we're able to list as priorities that we will indirectly afford through this stimulus. So that's kind of very exciting for us. And then, of course, we will go over what we have to fund according to the guidelines, which is water and sewer infrastructure, broadband, and some other things. So that will take place soon. I have some information about the county clerk's office, but Sue is with us tonight, so I'm actually going to ask you if you want to jump in here. She has some changes coming starting Monday, June 1st. In the clerk's recording office, she will be allowing some walk-ins to the clerk's office. So no appointments will be needed except for passports. So that is a good first foray into opening the county to walk-ins. So that's a good thing. We'll be able to, get our security used to the monitor process as people are coming through the doors. So that's great. At this time, we're still asking for masking required in the office. And do you want to talk about DMV is still operating by appointment?
Right, DMV is still going to be by appointment. We're doing about 1,000 a month, but we have 5,000 to 6,000 other transactions that we do in addition to those appointments. So it's really crucial that we just keep those appointments now and also have time to do all that other work. And we have stacks and stacks of dealing work right now we're trying to deal with. So as you can imagine, a lot of people are buying recreational vehicles and recreational boats and motorcycles, everything. They want to get out there and do it. So we are swamped right now. So we have to keep those appointments going. But the other side of the hall will just be walk-ins. And with the, security still doing the asking people questions and masks. Yeah.
Thank you for Both the CDC and New York State has loosened restrictions for mask wearing for fully vaccinated people. This is welcome news and a signal that we're moving away from crisis mode toward management and mitigation. Our internal policies here at the county will be updated. I'm working with HR and the health department on these updates. As soon as they're ready, you will be alerted. All employees are expected and have been asked to keep wearing their masks and social distancing until those revisions are prepared. Last month, the operations position to provide much needed assistance to the county operations and the office of the chair was voted down. Very succinctly and very clearly, I asked this legislative body to tell me and the county and its operations and the public, what do you want the county leadership to look like? How do you want the county to run? Since this meeting last month, I have not heard from any legislator about a plan moving forward. At this point, I have a leadership meeting with each caucus leader tentatively scheduled for Monday, June 7th. I'm willing to hear from both caucus groups about a plan forward. That gives you a couple of weeks to have some discussions. So please do so and discuss with your caucus leader. We will be meeting to talk about a way forward. In the meantime, if anyone would like to sit down and hash out any details or have more discussions, I'm available. I'm here every day. And so is your caucus leader, respectively. I guess, actually, that does conclude my report for this month. Do you have any questions for me? Legislator Latimer?
Madam Chair, thank you for the special meeting at the parks, and it was a great plan. But in the meantime, developing this plan, we should have had equipment that was safe and sound, not maybe to the grand plan that was proposed by our developers, but on the island, we should have a smaller one. I think the equipment that's on the Emerson side is probably a little outdated, and I've been talking about it for 10 years, and I would like to see something happen before, you know, the grand scheme. I know that the city put in about 6 different parks with a lot less money involved, so we should have better facilities at the park today.
Great. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, questions.
Senator Daly?
I'm curious about the American Rescue Plan, the 14.8 million total coming in 1 year and then the following year.
Yep.
It is not certainly a spend and claim. It's put a proposal in that fits the criteria that you're looking at, and then you'll get notification of whether that's eligible to be spent for that purpose. Is that how you see it working?
It is generally, right. And except for even the information that Lynn is pulling to talk about lost revenue that we have due to COVID.
Yeah.
You know, that she's compiling all that information.
And that's about 4% of realtors. And as they go to tonight's game, they have one guy that converts their field. That's the veteran Cameron Maven. So when you start losing depth and the depth.
In the initial 7 million can start to be spent fairly quickly. Is that?
It's supposed, the timeline is supposed to be pretty tight. It's supposed to be coming in. So I don't have
the detail.
Yeah.
On that.
I actually got an email from Senator Schumer's office right before this meeting. So with some new updates, I didn't go through them yet. Though.
So all of the details still getting worked out.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Legislator Foley?
Right, so it's 7 million 1 year, 7 million another, for a total of 14.
Yes.
And then put together this kind of committee with the
very close.
And just to get a holistic, but of course to cover the things that we must do. So we must do water and sewer infrastructure, for instance. We must do broadband. And what's interesting is that through the pages, a lot of the eligibility ask is dependent upon, I guess, criteria that's very narrow, that I'm not sure applies to us in some way. So that's why I need to call on some of the experts to come in. And then as soon as we get, if we discover we want to tackle broadband and call that a priority, our first priority, let's just say, then we'll call in experts and we'll talk to who we can talk to at the state level, or who else we can talk to even regionally to help us with that. Oh, sorry, Legislator Pinckney's next.
So, thank you. So are we looking at a 30 or 60-day window to compile this list with this committee, or something sooner, something later?
I don't know. We're going to get together first and brainstorm, and I know like some of the players that are on this committee are working with the other municipalities to kind of get a sense of a timeline. So we don't have that yet, but we are meeting on the 7th. Say that.
I just want to point out that the law itself, indicates a timeline when the first checks have to be available. And I don't have it in front of me, and I don't remember. It's a pretty short timeline. I think it was 90 days from approval. And Treasury, as you alluded to, was just produced interim rules.
Just last week.
But the law says the first checks go out in very, very short timeline.
I just submitted my acceptance of that money this afternoon. So through the portal.
Just get a check.
So yeah, who knows, right? I mean, that's what I'm hoping, right? So if that works out. Legislator Lidham.
Madam Chair, I mean, the summer is upon us and people are planning their family getaways and what have you. And I know that the 4th of July and the car show and all that. Do we have any kind of idea as to what events? I know that we had a special meeting at the park. It's sad to see that underutilized. Can we tell the public what we plan on doing for the summer, especially the 4th of July?
I do have, I believe Doug Delastrito's on the call. Doug, I'm not sure if you have information about the car show. I don't know what the latest is related to the car show.
Aileen, can you hear me okay? As I read on their post, there was some concern about coming up to the health guidance at that point. So several weeks ago, they actually decided to not run the event for this year.
In the 4th of July event?
So I can speak to that. We had a meeting on Friday, last Friday. We met with the sheriff who's here this evening, EMS, local health officials, Flunny Owasco Fire, EMT in the parks. We talked about submitting a mass gathering permit as that application process, which had just announced that it had opened. And of course, Doug Delastrito, feel free to jump in. So we had some discussion about how can we try to make this event successful. And we did some brainstorming and we went around the group and we had some people here in person and some joined us virtually. In order to meet the Part 18 mass gathering requirements, we need to have emergency plans. And then in addition to those emergency plans, we need to have some COVID guidance followed that the state has handed down for any large gatherings. So it was concluded at that meeting that it would not be feasible to get all of those items in order to make a successful event for July 4th, July 3rd fireworks. I don't know, the sheriff, do you want to add anything to that?
There was a lot of discussion on ways to try to make this event possible by following the guidelines that the state and the CDC have indicated that we have to follow and get the mass gathering permit at this point. And all collectively came to the conclusion that to limit the number of people on the grounds and try to do COVID screenings prior to everybody entering, this wouldn't be possible with the facility layout. So logistically, we just don't see how we can do that. If the guidance were to change, that might change our position, but we're getting pretty close to a point where it might be difficult to plan for that. As it stands at this point, there's just no way that we can screen everybody coming in, limit the number of people coming to the grounds with the amount of people and volume of people that always come to that event. So
Although it's an outdoor event, we have, we have guidance for some outdoor events, and that includes the single point of entry or two points of entry. Seated, people, if they're seated, you have to separate vaccinated versus not vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, you need to maintain 6 feet spacing, and you need to screen everyone who would attend the event. We talked about the traffic being backed up to Weedsport. We were screening just the cars that are going to be placed in the park. So, we did discuss this, and to this end, that is not going to be moving forward, that we can't really hold it. So Legislator Pinckney.
Yeah, so I totally respect the group that got together and the information that was shared. I do question, however, the timing of the decision. I think it was a little premature. And I was just wondering is things are changing daily and weekly with the state. And what would be the harm of waiting 3 weeks to make this final decision to see if things do open up? So that's a possibility. So the permit could possibly be looked at. There could be some efforts. I spoke with Gary, the sheriff, and some other people, and I just don't see any harm in another 3 weeks of looking at that happen with everything changes. So that
At this point, I'll ask if Dale Courier, I know he's on the line as well. I don't know, Dale, I don't know if you heard Legislator Pinckney, but if you, I know he was.
Did.
Some
I
additional.
I did hear him. Thank you. One of the other things we did before and subsequent to our discussion last Friday was to reach out to other people in other communities. I also spoke with a fireworks vendor, actually the vendor who does Emerson Park, to see what their experience has been with other areas. And, the real big concern is that we have an area that is totally uncontrollable for access. We expect, since people have been cooped up for a year and a half, that the crowd potentially is going to be larger. So creating more potential issues. Again, this is a common concern in many communities. And, we just don't have the staff as well. I've reached out to EMS agencies, and if you were to listen to the daily 911 dispatches, EMS throughout the county, particularly in the Auburn area, is stretched to the max with less assets. So now we bring a major event into town with 10, 15, 20,000 people, and may not be able to realistically commit to the incident action plan that has to be submitted as part of the Part 18 permit. I did talk to the state health department. While they are accepting applications, they made it very clear that they have not figured out yet how to consistently approve applications, because the requirements from state health are very hard to meet, as well as there's timing concerns. You have to have the application in at least 30 days before the event, et cetera. And most communities have decided to back off for another year because they're concerned with the longer term liability that could come from making people happy basically for an hour or so. And some are looking at not totally canceling it, but postponing it potentially until Labor Day. the tourist crowd would be down and we'd have a whole lot more information. So it's in many ways, as far as EMS support, having our own staff in the park. I mean, we're having trouble finding people to hire to mow grass, and those types of things are seasonal help. So our internal capabilities are much less up against the potential for a much bigger event. So it's really, unfortunately, the situation is fraught with way too many variables for the time we have and the resources we would have to commit to that we have no control over. So I would suggest, if I may, maybe consider postponing till Labor Day.
Through our discussion, we have from our incident action plan from 2019, we work with, these are the partners that we work with. So they're from over 20 agencies that we would be asking to help us. And then, the representation partly of those agencies who we convened to have this initial discussion. And it really was a brainstorming session to say, can we at all try to make this successful? We talked about moving it to Coliseum. We talked about what would everything, what would it look like anywhere else? How could we, and we were coming up short. So instead of thinking of something else.
Yeah, just a question for Dale. How do you plan on resolving the shortness in staff and I mean, what is the plan there? And the volunteer EMO people, and how do you plan on increasing that in the future, let alone for right now?
Well, again, I have to go back to what Chairwoman McNabb brought up. There are many agencies that support us, that are our partners. Some are paid, such as some of the EMS agencies. Others are volunteers, and we don't know. I can't tell you that we can know that we would have more staff further down the road. I can pretty well predict that, and I've been involved with similar situations or events such as Harborfest, which is a very similar type of situation where it's totally open. There's no control over the viewing areas and where people go. They saw the risk, and I can say that their risk assessment actually involved the fireworks vendor who makes big bucks on that show. And the fireworks vendor was very concerned about, the dynamics of more people this year and, trying to keep people apart, follow the guidelines, et cetera. So the people who stood to make money even said, this is pretty risky. So to your question, I can't say that staffing would necessarily be better or different around Labor Day, just picking a date. However, I could pretty comfortably say that's not peak tourist season. People wouldn't be in the area for reunions and family get-togethers after a year and a half. And the likelihood is the crowd would be much smaller, which would therefore need hopefully fewer services, have less risk for incidents requiring, EMS, law enforcement, et cetera, reduce the traffic congestion, and make for a better event.
Can I say something? Because I don't know how to push the raise your hand on Zoom. I haven't figured that out yet. 8x8 was much easier.
Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I've been contacted by a number of constituents on the operations officer thing, and Between the two positions, I think it's a false narrative for the citizen or anyone else to say that there's no added cost, because when you add the two salaries up, they're pretty similar to what the administrator salary was, but you're paying benefits to two people, then figure in legacy costs. But the thing that the constituents have brought to my attention, which I agree with, is the salary for the chair position was put back to 60,000, which is what it was years ago before there was a administrator, because the chair position took care of the day-to-day operations. If we're hiring two new positions to help take care of those, then why would the chair position not go back to 30,000? So I think that would be more palatable to some people. And me as a legislator, it would be more palatable. And as far as the whole July 3rd fireworks and all these things, I mean, is COVID different across this country? I mean, you look at Florida, Texas, various other states that are, you know, we got a choice. We can either live in fear the rest of our life because it's probably not going away, just like the flu, or we can live our life. And it's just strange how, and I'm not trying to make it political, but it's just strange how the blue states want to just hold on as long as they can to all this BS control, apparently. Thank you.
Before we have legislators speak, do you have a legal sense of, you know, we have to get a permit, we have to follow the permit. I guess I would be concerned that move forward ahead without proper permitting, that would obviously make the county.
Well, certainly you need a mass gathering permit and follow that process. Absent that, yeah, you're exposed to a lot of potential litigation.
Legislator Lattimore?
Madam Chair, you know, Woodstock had less problems opening up than, you know, trying to have a 4th of July family outing. We're not Harbor Fest where we got a lot of younger acting personnel. These are more family oriented outings at the front of the lake. So I would be in favor, along with Mr. Pinckney's position in regards to, let's not close this down until, you know, if we're going to follow the science, you know, the hospitals aren't being overwhelmed. You know, we've got a pretty good handle on what's going on. We're open, you know, air, it's outdoors. I mean, the psychological damage that we're doing to our kids is unmeasurable. Unfortunately, we had a young person, I don't know all the details, but use a parking garage as a launch point. So we've got to figure out how to get our kids back into the mainstream so that they can be kids. Thank you.
Yeah, so, you know, just to piggyback on your comment, clearly, you know, if there was a way to make this happen, we would make it happen. I mean, that was the point of our meeting, was to, what are the ways we can make this successful? We weren't looking to not have it. I was looking to have it. I was pushing to have it.
Well, when we compared to Harbor Fest, which is, there's a lot more drinking going on up there than at the foot of the lake.
So
I mean,
I guess
I've lived 70 years. I've been to different festivals. Ours is more family oriented, and I think we should have it.
I guess what I'm suggesting is it's not really a choice that I can sit up here and say, we will have the fireworks on July 3rd. I have 2 pages of partners that need to be willing. It's easy for us to say.
I think they'd be willing to go forward and outing for our public.
We aren't the ones handling all the logistics. And as the sheriff and as the Owasco Volunteer Fire Department has stated, that they cannot fulfill the obligation that they would need to fulfill in order to make that a safe event. So that's, you know, Legislator Daley.
I guess to Dale's point, which I'm unclear of, and you know, you were saying let's wait a couple weeks before we throw in the towel. But how do you overcome then the mass gathering permit has to be filed within 30 days? I mean, that would be almost impossible to go 3 more weeks and then try to go forward. Did you say that, Dale, that the mass gathering permit that's required has to be filed within 30 days of the event?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, two things. Yeah, it has to be filed within at least 30 days before the event, and the event cannot be advertised or tickets sold for at least 5 days after the application is submitted.
Say I'm not currently on the Parks Commission, but I was for many years. And my memory, even in a normal year, we started talking about the logistics for the fireworks 2 or 3 months prior. There are just a lot of logistics. And it's easy to sit here and say we should wait a day, 2 days, 3 weeks. But it doesn't work, unfortunately. And we had the group of people that have to do the work, a group of people that know better than we saying, man, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. There's no point in putting it off. I would though suggest to this body that are so certain they can figure it out, because maybe there's some, I don't know, maybe someone's got some kind of insight or genius that would solve these problems. You know, we suggest that that group get together and come forward with a proposal. But we can't vote to go against the experts that have to do the work based upon the fact that we would like to see something happen. It doesn't work, it can't work that way. All of our constituents would like to see it, all of them. So it's kind of it's an unfortunate thing, but what we have to do is look to the future.
The reason we did meet just last Friday was because the mass gathering permits were just being accepted. They just opened up those gates. So that's why I said, let's get together and see what we can do.
So they just opened that up last week, and then yet they're only giving you 30 days to file.
Right. I think most communities.
Something to me is not clear. And back on what Keith was saying about July 4th, it was known a year ago that it was going to be here this year. And nobody knew what was going to be going on. But when we saw things changing and getting better, wouldn't that have been a good time to start this process of a permit, so that if something did change as rapidly as things are changing, you'd have your ducks in a row and ready to go? I don't think that's, demanding too much of anything. I know there's work with Doug and Gary and Sheriff and all the people involved, but I mean, those are things that would happen if we didn't have a pandemic going. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to discount their judgment. Hats off to the professional people, but there's some common sense involved in here too. And
perhaps you would like to call New York State Department of Health.
No, I just like to get our ducks in a row so that if something changes, we're ready to go. And if we're not, then it's on the state. State says we can't do it and we're not equipped to do it, then we don't do it. But just taking the other avenue of just saying, wait another year. That's just not.
No one took that avenue. We tried to make it successful. And I think you don't understand that, or for some reason you want to hang your hat on that, is if we want to cancel it. Nobody in that group that met wants to see it canceled. Everybody wants to work together to try to come to a good solution, a good alternative. I love the idea of postponing the event till later summer or fall and trying it that way. Legislator Petras, did you have your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to add some data to the conversation. I just did a quick search and came up with an article from the New York Times, hardly a right-wing outpost. And it's citing numbers from the CDC, and it says that the transmission of COVID in outdoor settings is 0.1%. And so I just wanted to say, I think we should factor that into our consideration of this. I understand New York State has put some constrictions on us, and it'd be hard to meet those constrictions, but I think reason should prevail.
We need relief.
Legislator Foley.
Yeah. So, I think it's terrible that we couldn't get maybe ahead of the ball to have the fireworks for the 3rd of July. But there's a ton of things going on that don't always allow us to get ahead of these things. With that said, it's better to have something than nothing, so if we're not going to have 3rd of July due to, various entities not being able to partake and be ready in time, I think the recommendation to have for Labor Day is better than nothing. And hopefully, we would be able to have those accommodations in place by that time. And kind of go from there. And just as something that Dale said too, is it's an hour of time that makes people happy. I think it's much more than that. There's a very realistic aspect that people have come to look forward to the fireworks, share that time with their family and friends that they haven't seen in a long time, celebrate the actual holiday or what it's supposed to be about. And they need that now more than ever, certainly. So, if we can do it in a safe manner by the 3rd of July, okay, great. If we can't, then Labor Day is just the same. So I just wanted to kind of have that.
You're absolutely correct in saying that, traditions bring so much comfort after this past year and a few months of away from our families and away from our traditions and our customs. And that is a tradition and custom. And you are correct in saying that it is more than an hour for everyone involved. And, that was why, I hoped that we could find a solution to this. Legislator Nightingale?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm wondering if there's anything we can do in terms of public service announcement or publicity to let people know that the park is open. That indeed on the 3rd of July, they can use our park for family gatherings. I remember growing up, and it didn't have to be the 3rd of July. It could be any given Saturday or Sunday. There were, family groups all over the park. We're open, and minus fireworks. Maybe you could, throw in some invites to a couple of food trucks to make it a little celebratory. There's no reason why we can't say minus the fireworks. We would like families out there. We're going to contract with food trucks and want you to enjoy our park on the 3rd of July as we recognize the next day, the 4th.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Any other comments on this before we move up on? We will go to resolutions. Legislator Batman for Ways and Means.
Excuse me, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Ways and Means has one resolution, which is the authorization of the county treasurer to distribute the mortgage tax.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried, thank you. Next, we'll see Health and Human Services resolutions by Legislator Daley.
Yep, Health and Human Services had 3 resolutions this month. They've gone through both committees. I offered them up as a bundle unless anyone wants one separated out.
Okay, presentation as a bundle. Can I get a motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second,
Discussion.
Kerr.
Discussion on these as a bundle? All in favor?
Aye.
Ma'am, Ms. Kerr had a question.
I think she's second.
Seconded.
Oh, a second, okay.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, up next we have Legislator Foley, Government Operations.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Government Operations has 5 resolutions. I'll offer GO 1, 2, 3, and 4 up as a bundle.
Okay. GO 1 through 4 is a bundle. Motion?
Move it.
Second?
Yeah.
All right, discussion on 1 through 4. None, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. So GO 5, we do have an amendment to propose to that. That is temporarily appointing Lindsay Wilkinson, interim director of the Veterans Service Agency. So I'll take a motion for it. Or you can, and then we'll talk about the amendment.
So I'll move it not as amended.
Not as amended,
Move it-
no.
Just move it right as.
Okay. So the basis for the amendment is.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, if he could propose the amendment
Yeah,
so that we can understand what it is and then discuss it, that would be helpful.
right.
Okay, great. So do you want me to tell you the basis for the amendment?
Not the amendment.
Okay, so the amendment is going to be, the salary is going to be in the resolution 53,400 is what it's currently at. The amendment proposal is going to be 55,000.
I'll move it as amended.
Okay,
Second.
all right.
Okay,
now
any discussion on the amendment?
I'll explain.
Hearing.
Yes.
Okay, Yeah.
The 53.4 is the current salary for the position.
So the 53,400 was the base salary. We were kind of fumbling around at
Of the grade.
at committee to just, because when it was proposed to committee, it didn't have any number in there, if you remember from government operations. That was the base. What we later discovered through some, just more research was that 55 was actually the salary that was offered to the same position 3 years ago, and we thought that it would be better to reflect that updated salary.
What the salary of the current director?
Of the one that just resigned.
You cut it. Well,
did you hear that, Tucker?
no, I didn't. He cut out.
For the one that just.
I think better.
58.
hear it either.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we couldn't hear Ryan, what the salary was.
It was 58 for the current,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all me.
any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we will look for a motion on the resolution as amended.
We already had one, Madam
Oh,
Chair.
thank
There
you.
was
So
one.
now we vote on the resolution as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried, thank you. All right. Have Legislator Pinckney with planning resolutions.
Madam Chair, planning has 3 resolutions to committee. There's a one.
Planning. One. Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Carried, thank you. We have legislator.
Public Works has 10 resolutions that have all been through committee. I would like to bundle all 10 unless anyone would like to separate them. I would like to point out PW1 and PW5 are a 2/3 required vote.
Okay, we're gonna separate PW1, we'll do that first. Authorizing the purchase of a pickup truck with plow for buildings and grounds use requires a 2/3 vote. Can I get a motion on PW1?
Move it.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. And we'll go right to PW5, another authorizing purchase of a pickup truck and plow for parks and things and grounds use.
Move it.
Any discussion on this? Legislator Batman?
Yeah, I want to point out with the, we had a demonstration of the new electric pickup truck this week. And I would like, as we look at, I've said this before, but it just makes sense to me, as we look at purchasing motor vehicles, that we look at the overall cost, both in terms of purchase and the cost of operation of these. There are good rebates from the state on some of this stuff. So I'd like to see us look at those. Maybe we don't do it, but at least to look carefully at them and not let this opportunity go by.
Thank you for that.
Are they made of plastic so they don't rot out? Because I'd be way more interested if that was the case.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, PW5?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Legislator Whitman, I'll throw it back to you.
All right. Well, from there, I would like to bundle 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, unless anyone would like one singled out.
Discussion on these. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. On to judicial. Legislator Vitale.
Madam Chair, Judicial and Public Safety has 8 resolutions. Number 2 was pulled at committee before committee. So I give you 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. If somebody would like to make a motion to bundle them.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8?
Can I have a Republican caucus?
So you, Mr. Pinkham.
Yeah. It'll be a very brief.
Do we have to give it time?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
We'll recess for 5 minutes. Or caucus for 5 minutes. Not-
Do we have to make the vote yet, or no? We can have a motion in second today. All the time.
Okay.
I know.
How's Jen? Maybe talking fast.
Right. How's Jenny doing?
Good.
Feeling better?
Trish and Ben, I did
Yeah.
the setup for a caucus.
She's starting to get her
Well,
baby.
Usually you have the booze, and you get Grammys.
Yeah, exactly. Well, those of us here are gonna go have a drink. Yeah, but
Keith, did you say we are or are not caucusing?
Fun, but I did not.
Yeah.
I should have, my bad. And in the future, I'll make sure I do it automatically just in case. But I didn't set up. No, really. It is. I should have done it just for that reason. You're right. And I think it's Amanda's fault.
Oh, she is? Sure.
She had one thing, she had 2 things to do. I don't remember the other. What was the other thing you did?
God, I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe.
No.
That's right.
Talk to the guy with the face. Everybody else. Oh, it's online.
So we're getting on to the partner side.
I know.
There you go. So it's good to go.
I think I got is defrost food. My kitty.
Fluffy kitty.
Very cool. Not going back yet. Okay, we're back in session.
You wouldn't know when it's like they're gonna push it. Or one of those old real.
Yeah. No, that's what we were just talking
Yeah, you saying you're willing to pay, well, what's your price? That's pretty popular right there.
Okay. Call the meeting back to order. We had a motion and a second on the table on the bundle for JPS. Discussion.
That's pending. Then I want privilege of the floor, please.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. No discussion. Now we take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Those are carried.
What did we?
We just voted on the bundle, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Madam Chair, can I have the floor for a moment?
We are going to ledge one. Fixing day and notice of public hearing on local
Make a
law.
motion.
Excuse me?
Can I make a motion for something that was tabled?
We're on ledge what at this point?
Move it.
Ledge one, fixing day and notice of public hearing. We have a motion from Tucker Whitman. On ledge one.
Ledge one.
Ledge
I'll
one,
second.
second by Pinckney. Okay, discussion on ledge one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Yeah.
Opposed? Thank you. At this point, we have executive session.
Madam Chair.
I move executive session.
We have a motion to go into executive session. We have a second.
Second by Tally.
We head into, maybe we could ask folks to leave the room, maybe there is less people. I don't know. What would you rather? I think there's more space here if we stay here than if we move into the other room.
And can we turn off?
Oh, that's, never mind. Maybe we will.
End the stream and
Stay
then.
there, folks.
We can try. Maybe we can.
Revisit it. I don't believe so.
Yeah. Okay, we'll try caucus one. Yeah, that way they can leave the streaming.
So, Rich, question I want to bring up, the table thing under JP.
Oh, all in favor for executive session?
Aye.
Aye.
This resolution that was tabled.
No.
Just wanted to.
Scotcher says no. Are you gonna stay here,
I
huh?
want to bring this back on the floor, and I think any legislator can bring it up.
We're in executive. Oh, this was.
Yeah, we have to go in the other room.
It's tabled. Yeah.
I can't get into the executive session. Says the host has another meeting going on. If Chambers can hear me, we can't get into the executive session remotely.
Yeah, I went into the Zoom call for executive session. I couldn't get in either.
Yeah, it says the host has another meeting going on.
Yep.
Trish can't get in either.
So we're gonna send a quick 8x8 link because the host is already
On this one.
Amanda's gonna send a 8x8 link.
Okay, just mark me as excused for the rest of the meeting.
Hey, Jody, can you send an 8x8 link? It says that the software on this isn't updated, so I can't go to 8x8. Well, since it was done.
Legislators. And Kaylee?
Ben, Trisha, and Tucker.
Andy?
Jody has sent you, and Andy,
She sent it to all.
Jody sent a link, an 8x8 link for the executive session.
There we go. We gotta get
Okay.
this started.
We're live, but can we move on? Okay, so do I hear a, thank you, a motion on ledge 2?
So moved. I could read your lips.
Do you have a second on ledge 2?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is carried. Legislator Benton?
I move we adjourn.
No.
Second.
Okay, my first and a second on adjournment. Mr.
That's the way you want to
Mr.
play,
Attorney?
okay.
Roll call vote.
It's all right.
I don't make the roll call vote. Wasn't there any other business? Was that Northern
There's
Committee?
other business. on the
Hold on a
floor.
minute, we have a first and a second, right?
We do have a first and a second, but we can do, if we could wait until Sheila returns, so we do a little.
Well, actually, I could. Roll call vote in the adjournment?
Is that,
Okay,
so we wanted a roll call on the adjournment?
Yeah, I
I'm
think-
saying, isn't there a
Madam Chair,
norm?
Point of order, I think for adjournment, it's not a weighted vote, it simply is the majority of people present. Well, you don't need a roll
Well, then
call.
prior to that, excuse me, point of interest. Normally you say, is there anything else to come before? Ah,
but then there was a motion for adjournment, and I'm just,
I never had a chance. Say it.
This,
I saw.
you know,
Take precedence.
so shall we do an all in favor? And then if it's murky, we'll do a roll call.
Say that a little louder, I really didn't hear it.
So
What did
this
you,
is yea or nay for adjournment, correct?
Yeah, so we'll take a vote for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll roll call that, I guess.
Yeah.
It's murky.
opposed?
Now you say opposed, I think.
Tucker Whitman,
He's not.
he's no
gone.
longer here.
Huh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Andy Dennison,
No.
changes things.
Ben
Yeah.
Vitale,
Yes.
Christopher Petrus,
No.
Paul Pinkney,
No,
Keith Batman,
Yes.
Hans Petcher,
no.
Mark Strong,
No.
Heidi Nightingale,
No.
Elaine Daly,
It is to
To adjourn.
Yes.
Trisha Kerr,
No.
Timothy Lattimore,
No,
Michael Didio,
Oh,
Ryan Foley,
no.
Amy McNabb Coleman.
I'll say yes.
So it's defeated, so we are still in session.
Okay.
I'd like to bring up on the floor, Madam, a resolution that was tabled on Ways and Means. This resolution, it's JP 2. I think everybody's gotten a written copy. I'd like to move it.
Do the legislators virtually have a copy of, what are we calling this?
Can it be put on the screen?
AP2?
Let me find it. I think
I'm just saying.
Right here.
Can it be read?
Sure, it surely will be read.
I'll take a picture and send it to him.
Yeah, I got it. It's just, I have to switch the share. There we go.
Mr. Lattimore, would you like to read it for us?
Andy, can you see it?
I don't have I don't know the contents of this. So.
Madam, can the clerk read it so everybody can hear it?
I guess, is
There's
that
parts in there you got Xed up, I can't see on the copy. You want the whole thing read?
Well, I think it's been passed in judicial. I think everybody's seen this particular item. It's not news. It was tabled. Rich, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah. One, to get started, I would suggest you have a motion and a second just to get it on the table if that's your intent. Two, you also need a motion to amend what's in front of you to disregard the handwritten notations, because those handwritten notations, as far as I understand it, would not be included in the formal text of the resolution you want to have adopted. You don't want people to adopt your notes. You want people to adopt the resolution.
Correct.
So, two steps.
I'll make
One, you've got to put it
I'll
on the
make a
table.
motion that we, as presented in
I'll second.
Ways and Means.
For discussion.
Copy that.
Now, secondly, would suggest you make a motion to amend this copy and to disregard all the handwritten notations.
Make a motion that we disregard any handwritten notes.
Okay. And you have a second to that? Second. Okay. Now, you can discuss that amendment at this point. And
the amendment of
vote on,
the amendment of the handwritten notations?
yes,
Okay.
by
Any,
disregarding.
any discussion on disregarding the handwritten notations?
Which handwritten, the thing on the top?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, that's the only handwritten notations you're
Well,
referring to?
This is a
crossed out.
Yes, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, and the things that are highlighted, are that supposed to be struck from this? I mean, this.
Right, that's why I was wondering what, if this could be read, so I know what to include and what not to include.
Paragraph, is it you're talking about, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, when we see this, is this supposed to not be part of
Right.
this amended resolution?
This is why I'm not reading it, because I don't know what to read.
John, is this stricken from the paragraph, or is this?
Highlighted.
Who marked this?
Highlighted or? I don't know what the highlighted is. The resolution as passed by both safety has tabled that Ways and Means, trying to move. There's extraneous marks that strict them, otherwise the body of the resolution, I think, is intact.
So this area that was highlighted is still stays.
Adam, none of these numbers go along with JP1 that we just passed. Nobody seems to know what we're proposing here. Very difficult for a legislator to vote yay or nay for this thing right now. I'm sorry, I can't waste my time with this.
Well, this is why I'd like to go through it.
Is it been moved?
It's been moved and seconded.
So can I
No, to disregard the part two.
send it to?
Oh, I'm sorry, we just did the,
No, it's been in committee. Let's do that. I want to do it on the floor.
We have a motion to amend to disregard the handwritten notations.
okay, all in
Correct.
favor of disregarding the handwritten notations? Aye.
Aye.
That is carried. So now we're disregarding the handwritten notations at the top. And now we are, go ahead.
Yeah, and may I propose that we send this back through committee? And the reason that people have seen it, but there are changes based upon the fact that we passed a resolution tonight that dealt with some of the funding. So that this cannot go through as written, because of what we actually took tonight. So what's the harm? So put it back to the committee so it comes out correct.
Well,
Your committee.
your earlier argument to me is that you didn't have it in writing, so we gave it to you in writing.
I say now I move.
And
So I have
and
a
it's on the floor.
I
It's
have a motion to
been
table,
moved, it's been
a second to
seconded.
table.
Can we have a vote on it?
So
Madam Chair?
Mr. Attorney, we have a motion and a second to table.
Not the table, to pass it.
No, to table. We just got a motion and a second.
The table is kind of-
Legislator Nightingale. Is that true? Usually.
So you're voting on the tabling right now, so everybody understands.
Is that right? Okay.
And that take-
That takes.
Would you
precedence.
clarify for us?
We have a,
The motion to table takes precedence at this stage.
And we're gonna
We're
table
gonna
it.
vote on it. No, you.
We're gonna vote on
We're
the
gonna
table.
vote on table.
Right.
okay, motion to table. We have a second. All in favor to table? Aye. Yeah, I think we need to roll call it. Motion to table. Vote to table.
Just hold on one second. Let me make sure that I'm sharing.
Is that based on the number of people available or is that the way to vote? That's throwing a lot at
Simple,
you.
it's simple majority. Simple.
What's your purpose?
Roll call to table.
Tucker Whitman,
He's done.
Andy Dennison,
No,
Ben Vitale,
Yes.
Chris Petras,
No.
Paul Pinkney,
Claire,
motion to table.
motion to table.
Back-
Back to committee on next week or so. No,
Keith Batman,
Yes.
Hans Petcher,
No.
Mark Strong,
No.
Heidi Nightingale,
Yeah.
Elaine Daly,
Yes.
Tricia
I
Kerr,
mean, before we, if it goes.
I am voting yes. I have not seen this resolution. I'm not on judicial and public safety or ways and means. I have not had a chance to review it, and on the screen, I can't really read it. So I'm voting yes to table.
Tim Lattimore,
No.
Michael Didio,
no,
Ryan Foley,
Yes.
Aileen McNabb Coleman.
Yes to table for the same reasons as Legislator Kerr.
Defeated.
okay.
So the motion to table is defeated.
Well,
So I'm still on.
I gotta vote for it. Motion
For this.
for this, yeah, no.
Okay,
Call the question.
Madam Chair,
Call a question?
Legislator Bettman?
I would amend this to strike the third paragraph, whereas the district attorney's office has secured nearly $400,000 revenue during the past year and so on. That is number one, misleading. Number two, that is the action we took earlier to identify that money. So at best, this is redundant, and this is one of the things let's talk about. It's a confusing resolution. So I move to strike that whereas.
Okay.
The third one,
Third.
whereas the district attorney's office has secured nearly $400,000 additional revenue during the past year.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend this with the striking of the third paragraph.
Second, Nightingale.
Discussion, thank you, I'm
Thanks.
lost.
yeah, I want to know why. I mean, is that not true, those numbers, or why are we striking that?
Two reasons. Yes, the numbers are misleading and not quite adequate, accurate. More importantly, we passed a resolution tonight that dealt with that assigned whatever it's called,
We accepted the discovery
additional
funds.
attorneys,
The
discovery reform funding. We dealt with that in an earlier resolution. So we need to be careful that we're not passing something that has a built-in conflict with something we've already done. And it's irrelevant to those. It's not important to this resolution for those who support it.
Do you know what the correct numbers are?
Okay, further discussion?
Thank you. I would just ask our county attorney, is this severable? Is it necessary? As Mr. Legislator Beckman has said, can we severable, have this removed, and will the resolution still be effective as written.
Well, the whereas clause just explains the background and the reason for
Okay, so
that. I mean, to take out a whereas,
we're good.
it doesn't, I mean, if you were to amend the resolved paragraphs, that would be a different story.
Okay, just
You know,
wanted
this is
clarification.
just
Thank you.
background information.
Further discussion? I don't know if anyone here has the answer, but the first resolved with the grade 11. I don't have that information to know. If it's the proper grade or.
Deputy Chief Assistant.
Did I not vote?
Yep, great. This John right here.
Third whereas. Did we?
You have not voted on the amendment.
We vote on the amendment.
There is an amendment on the floor. We need to vote on it.
Yeah.
I'll call that question.
Can you do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Call a question, please.
Okay, hold on a second. I am. So here's the thing. So I just had the question and as part of the discussion, I didn't know about the grade in that first. Secondly, from the original that I was able to pull up from April.
The April 14th additional meeting.
The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth whereas is totally different than that original. So I just want people.
Can I ask you a question? Was that fifth whereas amended from the past the 14th?
We vote on striking the motion on the floor and
Okay.
then move on to other.
Hold on, we're gonna take a vote on striking the third whereas. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Post.
Oh, two.
Lattimore, Dennison opposed.
Yes, I was opposed, if that's what you asked.
Thanks, Sandy.
So for further discussion, I have whereas here. Whereas, and that is different how. Yeah.
At home, no,
Okay,
Well, then
what this
we
body,
could read it to them.
yeah.
okay. You want to read the original?
Or you could enlarge the, what's shown on the screen
Yes,
for the people
I
at
just don't
home.
know if there's a certain.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make another amendment.
Just one.
No, we just voted.
We just.
Let's vote on the amendment.
Okay, so I actually had an amendment first. So
And
one. What to start with?
Yeah.
The deputy chief assistant.
To be clear, this is what's in front of the board.
Okay,
So you're reading this to
Okay.
clarify for the people. You're not amending anything. You're just reading it to clarify.
all right, so this is, but people should know this is different than what was proposed in April, that went through committee in April. Just so everyone's clear.
Different if it was on the table. Madam Chair.
Well, what people were familiar with what happened in April, this is different. It's not the same.
No, wouldn't that be the more current one?
Yes, it is. I want to make sure, what I had heard was it's the same when we already did this. It's not the same resolution. No, that's what I'm exactly saying. It's not the same one. Just so you're aware of that.
This one's not the same we tabled a month ago?
I'm just saying it's not the same as they have on record.
This one right here.
That
is
was the
one
14th.
Of April.
It's not, Madam Chair.
Right, that's why I want to clear that up for people who don't know that.
Wow. How did that happen?
I didn't bring this up.
Yesterday, probably.
Madam Chair, before you read it, can I make one more amendment?
Go ahead.
I'd like to take my name off of it. This isn't what was passed in judicial and public safety. And it's so confusing. I don't want my name on it.
That was removed.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was.
That was-
It does have a strike through it on the copies we have in hand.
Okay.
I think it is prudent to go through this resolution to be sure everyone's aware of what they're voting on. So here goes.
Madam Chair, do we have questions? Should we ask when you go through it or wait till the end?
No, ask when we go through, because it's a little bit long and tedious. All right,
Madam Chair, can I just get clarification on something?
sure.
Last month, we now have a resolution that was brought off the table,
But it's different?
but it's different.
It's
How is
different.
that
Thank you, Cindy.
possible?
It's a
No,
good
this
point.
is a new one. It's not the table.
It's not the
They
table.
said it
one.
was the table resolution. That's what I'm trying to gain clarity on from April. You can't have two different resolutions if it's being brought off the table as it was tabled at that committee. And now it's different. That's what I'm
That's why I
wondering.
thought it'd be good to send it back to judicial.
I got a question for Rich. Yeah. So since we amended, we changed this document, right? Correct. I want to make a motion to table this back to committee.
Yes,
I'll second.
I'll second.
Oh, wait, it has to be someone that voted no on the table before.
I voted no.
With first and a second, a table back to committee. Discussion on this tabling. All in favor to table back to committee? Aye. Any opposed to tabling back to committee?
Yes.
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 Yeah. Because
Smile.
isn't that what was supposed to happen last month and it didn't happen?
Document.
It's a different resolution, Andy. So we have opposes. Petrus, oppose?
Petra, Petrus,
Latimer, Andy.
Yeah.
Mark. Hans, Petrus. Tom.
Mr. Strong, did you oppose?
Yes.
Okay. The-
Five items.
We have to wait that. or no? We're good.
So motion to table that.
Motion to table passed. Okay, so take this back to committee. Come back to committee.
So Madam Chair, I'll motion to adjourn.
Adjournment.
Second.
Second, Trish Kerr for the second. All in favor?
Just bring your shirt right back up.
You can have more. That was.
Make more.
People feel much, though. This is not the same. No, that one is-